Have you ever had a neighbor who took things just a little too far? Well, imagine this, a quiet, routine morning when suddenly you find out that your HOA Karen has been intercepting your mail, and not just a stray letter or two, but crucial documents meant for you. Sounds wild, right? But that's exactly what happened to me, and what followed was nothing short of a nightmare. It all started when I noticed something odd. Important letters were mysteriously missing. At first, I thought it was just a mistake, maybe a mix-up with the postal service. But as the weeks went by, I began to realize something much more sinister was at play. My mail wasn't just misplaced, it was being rerouted to her address. And the worst part, she was doing it on purpose. But here's the kicker. I had no idea how serious the situation was. Turns out, diverting someone's mail is more than just a petty act, it's a federal crime. Little did I know, my HOA Karen was about to lead me down a path that could get her arrested. Stick around, because the shocking twist that's coming next is something you won't want to miss. What happens when mail fraud meets a determined homeowner? You're about to find out. At first, I didn't think much of it. The missing mail didn't seem like a big deal, and I figured I could just get a replacement or call the postal service. But when I started getting late notices for bills I had already paid, that's when the red flags went up. Something wasn't adding up. I tried reaching out to the post office, but they told me there was no record of any issues. Everything seemed fine on their end. Then one day it happened again. Another important document was gone. But this time I got a tip from a neighbor. She'd seen my HOA Karen carrying a pile of mail that didn't belong to her, and it clicked. I remembered the weird moments when she'd mentioned how much she liked to keep things in order, even when it came to other people's business. It was a sickening feeling, realizing that she might be deliberately taking my mail. I decided to do some digging. I started checking the tracking info for packages, and that's when things really got suspicious. Several of my parcels, marked as delivered, never reached me. The final straw came when I noticed that my monthly bank statement had been redirected to her address. At that point, I knew something was wrong, really wrong. But could I prove it? And what could I do to stop her before it was too late? I knew I had to act fast, but the thought of confronting her directly made my stomach churn. HOA Karen wasn't just your average neighbor. She had a reputation for being controlling and manipulative. Everyone in the neighborhood dreaded her. She ran the HOA with an iron fist, and if you crossed her, you'd be dealing with the consequences for weeks, months, even years. I wasn't sure if I wanted to give her the satisfaction of knowing she'd gotten under my skin, but at this point, I had no choice. I began taking more cautious steps. I set up a camera outside my door, hoping to catch something on film. I also contacted the post office again, this time asking about any unusual address changes or redirections. To my surprise, they couldn't give me much help. It seemed like she had covered her tracks pretty well. I even started checking the HOA meeting minutes, hoping to find some clue about her motives. But the deeper I looked, the more I felt like I was hitting dead ends. Then I received a letter, one that I hadn't even realized was missing. It was from my bank, and it was regarding a significant financial transaction that I hadn't authorized. Panic set in. I started questioning everything. Could she have been opening my financial documents too? Was she using my information for something bigger than just messing with my mail? I was spiraling, caught in a web of suspicion, and every move I made seemed to bring me deeper into this mess. The worst part was, I didn't even know if I had enough proof to stop her. It felt like I was playing a dangerous game, one where she was always one step ahead. Would the truth finally come to light, or was I about to fall into her trap? As the days went on, I could feel the pressure building. Every time I saw HOA Karen, I couldn't shake the feeling that she knew I was onto her. Her smile was always too perfect, like she was hiding something behind those perfectly manicured eyes. I started noticing small things. She'd often stare a little too long when I walked by, and sometimes I'd catch her in conversations with neighbors who seemed strangely uncomfortable. It was as though she was weaving some invisible web, and I was caught right in the middle of it. Then I got a message that made my heart skip a beat. It was from the post office, but this time it wasn't just a vague response. They told me that there had been a change of address request filed under my name. But here's the kicker, it wasn't me who'd filed it. That request had been submitted online, and the address it had been redirected to, you guessed it, HOA Karen's. I was running out of time. I needed proof, something solid that could put an end to this. I set up a meeting with the post office, hoping they could pull the records, but with every passing moment, I felt like I was being watched. I started getting the sneaking suspicion that HOA Karen wasn't just messing with my mail, she was tracking my every move. But the worst was yet to come. One evening, as I was leaving my house, I saw her standing by the mailbox. And she wasn't just standing there, she was holding an envelope. My envelope. It was the one I'd been waiting for, a package from the bank, one that I had no doubt would reveal everything. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Was she about to destroy the last shred of evidence I had? Or worse, was she going to make sure I could never find out the truth? The moment felt like it was hanging in the balance, and I knew the clock was ticking. I stood there frozen, watching as HOA Karen slowly turned the envelope in her hands, almost as if she was savoring the moment. My mind raced, this was it. The proof I had been desperately searching for, the piece of the puzzle that could expose everything. I had no idea what she planned to do with it, but one thing was clear, she wasn't going to let me get it without a fight. Then, something unexpected happened. Just as I was about to step forward and confront her, a car pulled up. It was a black sedan, sleek and almost too professional looking for the neighborhood. A man stepped out, dressed in a dark suit, carrying a briefcase. He glanced in my direction, but didn't seem to notice me at first. Instead, he walked straight up to HOA Karen, who greeted him with an unsettlingly polite smile. My heart skipped a beat. Who was this guy? And why was he here, talking to her, in a way that seemed familiar? They exchanged a few quiet words, and then, to my shock, he handed her a stack of papers. I couldn't make out the details, but it didn't look like just casual paperwork. It looked important, really important. I knew right then that things were more complicated than I ever imagined. This wasn't just about stolen mail or a petty neighborhood feud. Something much bigger was going on, and HOA Karen was at the center of it all. But what did this man have to do with her? And how deep did the rabbit hole go? The stakes had just gotten higher, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But one thing was for sure, I was in way over my head now. I couldn't just stand there any longer. My gut told me this was the moment that could either make or break everything. As HOA Karen and the mysterious man walked toward the house, I had to act. I ducked behind a bush, trying to stay out of sight, but my heart was pounding in my ears. I needed answers, and I couldn't afford to wait any longer. I crept closer, staying as quiet as I could, trying to catch anything I could from their conversation. I caught snippets, nothing too clear at first, but then the man's voice cut through the air, low and urgent. You need to finish what you started. This can't be delayed any longer. My pulse quickened. What the heck was he talking about? I was too far to hear the full exchange, but then I saw HOA Karen pass in the envelope, the one with my name on it. And that's when I made my move. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. What's going on here, Karen? They both froze. HOA Karen's face went white, her calm demeanor cracking. You don't know what you're messing with, she hissed, her eyes narrowing. You should have stayed out of this. Before I could respond, the man spoke up. It's already too late. You should have left her alone. My mind spun. Left her alone? What did he mean? That's when the truth finally hit me. This wasn't just about mail fraud or stolen documents. It wasn't even about HOA politics. It was about a larger scheme, one that stretched far beyond our neighborhood. And the truth was, I wasn't the only one being targeted. Just as I was about to demand answers, a police car screeched to a halt in front of the house. Officers jumped out, and I recognized one of them, an old acquaintance from a few years ago. "We got a tip," he said, walking straight toward HOA Karen and the man. "We've been tracking your activities for months." The man's face went ashen, but before he could react, he was handcuffed. HOA Karen was already backing away, but the officers caught her quickly. They must have known exactly what was going on. But then, just as I thought everything was over, the officer looked at me with a grim expression. "You're going to want to sit down for this," he said. "There's something you still don't know. The person who filed that address change wasn't Karen. It was someone much closer to you." My stomach dropped. I turned to the officer, eyes wide with confusion. "What do you mean?" He just shook his head. "You'll find out soon enough." And with that, the world I thought I knew shattered into pieces. The officer led me to his car, and as we sat down, he finally dropped the bombshell. "It was your own roommate who filed the change of address," he said, his voice low. "We've been investigating them for months, and they've been working with HOA Karen. It's all part of a much bigger operation, one that involves identity theft and financial fraud." My head spun. I couldn't believe it. The person I trusted most in my home had been playing me all along. The same roommate who'd been there for me, helping with bills, managing things around the house. I felt betrayed on a level I hadn't thought possible. The truth hit harder than I expected. It turned out HOA Karen had been more than just an overbearing neighbor. She was part of a well-organized ring using the HOA system to exploit unsuspecting residents. My roommate had been the insider, feeding her information and redirecting mail to steal identities and siphon funds. In the end, the police uncovered a massive network, with Karen and my roommate facing serious charges. But as I walked away from that day, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss, not just from the betrayal, but from the realization that people you trust can sometimes be the ones who hurt you the most. I'll never forget the lesson learned from this twisted chapter. Trust, once broken, can change everything.